Everybody, welcome back into another edition of Rapid Recap here inside Nebraska. With me, as always, is Greg Smith. I'm Zack Carpenter, and Greg, it's rapid fire. It's rapid recap, so we'll just get right into it. No intros. We already talked offline for a bit. We know how each other's day was going. Today, Marcus Satterfield met with the media in addition to Tony White and a slew of players. But I mean, far and away, the number one takeaway from Matt Rhule yesterday on Monday and the entire press conference today is quarterback play. Who's going to be the quarterback? And Satterfield, I feel like I told Jansen this, I told you and Steve this. Like I feel like I could transcribe the answers from Marcus Satterfield in this presser before I even go to the presser, because I know what he's going to say, right?
Yeah, we kind of knew where he was going to go in the lavish praise on each of the quarterbacks, and Chubba's a warrior and all of that. Though I did think, not to bury the lead or jump too far ahead, I do think that he pointed out that Chubba, ran a lot of plays that he didn't practice all week because he was on the scout team. I do think that that's valuable and worth mentioning and true. But it's just a really tough situation, and I think a bitter pill for fans to swallow, to hear how well the offense and the quarterbacks have been playing and how much progress they've made, given the product that we've seen week to week. Like that's a tough one. It's becoming the best practice ever of this staff, rapidly, to be honest.
Yeah, it's got to be frustrating. You're right, because like you keep hearing it. Yeah, like Jeff doesn't turn it over in practice, or Heinrich or Chubba looks great in practice, but then it's like, yeah, but then when you see it translate to the game, you see the struggles. I mean, Chubba, I can't throw him in that same boat right now because he only had one series, one drive, and he looked good all the way up until that last fateful interception. But yeah, I mean, that's the question right now, is who's going to be Nebraska's starting quarterback against Wisconsin. Today, Satterfield said that Heinrich Harburg is limited, or he was limited in practice, and he said limited, but it sounded more like he was barely practicing at all. Like it'd be more like a very limited in all caps at practice. He said he was taking mental reps out there, like Russell Wilson style mental reps.
Anytime a coach says a guy's taking mental reps, it's a bad sign.
Yeah, he didn't say Russell Wilson, but that's what I thought of when he said it. The Sunday Night Football Russell Wilson getting out there, making sure he's still in rhythm. But anyway, I digress. That was the update on Harburg. Chubba and Jeff Sims we're splitting first team reps today at practice. And Satterfield talked a little bit about the progress they've made, what Purdy's performance against Maryland meant. But in the end, the question is right now. I think the question is Chubba Purdy or Jeff Sims. Who's going to start? I'm getting the strong read from Monday into today, based on a number of different factors. That's going to be Chubba Purdy will be your QB1 at Wisconsin. But I don't know. Am I misreading that? What do you think? What's your perspective?
Man, if I hadn't heard Marcus Satterfield and how he described Chubba's performance, and just heard Matt Rhule and kind of how he talked about Jeff Sims, I would think that Chubba Purdy was going to start. I didn't. If you're Jeff Sims, like, you're probably thinking, I'm really not going to get another shot, and it's not as if it's random that's happened. Like, there's been reasoning for that. And B, that Chubba's going to be the guy this week. At this point I would be shocked if it wasn't Chubba Purdy. And I think that we've kind of talked about this, like, off and on, like, kind of off pod. Like, I feel like we're at the point to where you can't put Jeff Sims back out there. Like, and we saw kind of the early season struggles after the preseason kind of praise and him being a future NFL guy and all of that. And then we get out there and the turnover bug is basically what cost him the game against Minnesota. And then you see the struggles at Colorado, and then, like, the kind of injury that I guess he was probably more hurt than they probably led us to believe. But at the same time, it didn't feel like they wanted to put him out there then. So then you fast forward to last game and they have to put him out there, and he does the exact same thing, forcing you to go to a third quarterback. I just think that means it's all run its course for him. I really do think that. And in the age of the transfer portal, I don't think it's too much to say that, he'll be playing somewhere else next year. So that's a long way of saying I think it's Chubba Purdy this Saturday at Wisconsin. And to be honest, I think he based on how both of them played on Saturday, I think Purdy to me would be the clear choice, especially when you handicap it a little bit for the fact that Purdy was running scout team last week.
Yeah, I mean, if you just run through the evidence we have, like, I mean, it points all. I think all of the signs point to Purdy being named the starter, and he's going to be out there taking the running out there with the ones on the first series. I mean,
Yeah.
Harburg has a sprained ankle, and I think sounded like Rhule or the staff like thought it was maybe a little more serious or like worse than they initially hoped or
Yeah, it did seem
believed.
like that. Yeah,
And Rhule said a lot of the same things he said about Harburg's ankle sprain that he did about Sims' ankle sprain after Colorado. So um, I get the feeling that he's going to be like an emergency quarterback situation, I think, on Saturday if he's able to go. But we don't know that yet. That's just sort of the read I'm getting. And then, yeah, Jeff Sims, I just do not think you can put him back out there to start. I don't think you can put him on the field unless you have to. Like
right.
if the other two guys aren't able to go, I mean he has a turnover now in he has one turnover for every 16 snaps this season, and he has now after Saturday 40 career turnovers, and you can just see it. Like you saw it on Saturday if you rewatch the broadcast on Peacock, like he fumbled it, and then he had the second interception, third overall turnover on back-to-back plays. And after he threw that interception, you just see him. He walked over to the camera showed him on the sideline, just squatting down, like holding his helmet off, just like staring down into the ground, like um, next to the red fence there at Memorial Stadium, like that's behind the bench area. And it's like you can just tell he's just not in. He's not in the right mindset, I don't think, that to confidently go out there and play this position at the level that you would need to.
And especially what Matt Rhule says this a lot about the pressure of playing quarterback at Nebraska, right? And I think that it's a very real thing. We talk about it like the pressure of just playing at Nebraska and the scrutiny that comes with. Man, being the quarterback here is a whole different beast. And it's obviously, I think that this ultimately though is a little bit of a lesson moving forward for Rhule and his staff about how to approach bringing in transfers, not just at quarterback, though that'll be something that obviously we talk about a lot going forward, but the process of bringing in transfers and if they can handle the bright lights of being here and all of the scrutiny, I definitely think that'll be, something that is needed to give consideration.
Yeah, I'm reminded right now of a quote Ryan Day used to say about, or still says about quarterbacks. He said, in his opinion, that being the quarterback at Ohio State is like being the shortstop of the New York Yankees, as far as the meaning of the position, how big of a spotlight it is, the scrutiny that comes with it, and I think that plays here. I think that's the exact same. Being the quarterback at University of Nebraska is like being the shortstop of the New York Yankees, where you're gonna get
especially
criticized.
especially in this day and age, right? With all the NIL and everything that comes with it, we actually see those guys even more, right? Like you see, and you weren't here for this, but like Tanner Lee, when he transferred in from Tulane, like that was a big deal, and he was scrutinized and talked about a lot. But it's even more with Jeff Sims because Tanner Lee wasn't like out there on billboards and at Amigos and all of that, and with combos and stuff. So like it's a different day and age for college football, and that has to be factored in.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I wrote on Tuesday, InsideNebraska.com, for like just like takeaways from a very long, extensive, and revealing press conference from Matt Rhule on Monday. Was it's already a fishbowl at Nebraska. You already have to handle that fishbowl, and I think it's doubly so. However, whatever number figure you want to put on it, it's compounded by the fact that it's the year 2023 and we're in the social media era, we're in the NIL era. Like they're exposed to that more. So like the players are exposed more to just that conversation about their own play and about the team. I think more than ever before. So yeah, I think you're spot on with the fact that it's can be a learning tool for the staff going forward of when you bring in a transfer quarterback, when you bring in anybody, you have to make sure that, but it's so hard. So I wanted to say you have to make sure that they're their mentals are there, like that they can
It's
handle
such a
this. But that's
tough
like
thing to
the
do.
that's
Yeah.
like the hardest thing to evaluate in a
Yeah.
quarterback and any player is what's inside here, because like they can say all the right things, do all the right things, like think all the right things, but then in other moments, like that's when they show you whether they're built for the moment or not. And that's so I think that's the one
Are you
thing that
built for this?
they could
Yeah.
not calculate with Jeff Sims, and um, I think we're seeing that play out. I think it's been a shock to that staff.
Yeah, it absolutely has been. And like you said, it is a very, very difficult thing to account for because it's so hard to know. Like you could have a guy like come from like a lower level and be totally fine, but a guy coming from Power Five has an issue. Like it's such an individual thing that you just and ultimately you don't know until you know, right? Until the bright lights come on and the guy gets here, you get out of camp and you get into games, and that's when you really figure it out. So it is really tough. I give credit for that. But man, it's they'll have to figure it out moving forward.
Yeah, and then we're kind of, I mean, obviously we're burying the lead. I wanted to save it for last, was Chubba Purdy, the
Yeah.
man himself. You know, we talk about Heinrich and then we talk about Sims, but Purdy sounds like is going to be the man of the hour, at least the way we're reading it. And Satterfield, he said today that what Purdy did on Saturday, coming in after running scout team and having never played this season in this system, and he said what he did on Saturday was amazing, quote unquote amazing, and the fact of him coming off the bench, and the Matt Rhule told Satterfield said asked Matt Rhule before that last series, hey, what do you want to do here, because we're backed up on 3 yard line, and Rhule said attack, like go win the game, and so that's what they tried to do, and that's what they almost did,
Yeah.
going down the field till the interception, which we talked extensively about yesterday on our rapid recap video that you can check out again on Inside Nebraska YouTube channel, because there's this dichotomy of what the staff is doing, where they're trying to win now and at the same time develop for the future, and winning teams, winning programs, good teams, they throw the ball on 3rd and goal from the 7. They try to go win the game, and in 2-3 years, maybe that pass gets completed for a touchdown. We're talking about a 17-10 win come this time, whenever that does come. But digressing here, Purdy sounds like they said a lot of the same things about Purdy that they have all year, about that they've said about all 3 Nebraska quarterbacks. And you and I have had many conversations offline of this is a prime example of why they did that all year.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just had a feeling that they were going to have to go to one of these other guys at some point, right? And like whether or not Sims would be back out there, it would be Purdy, and that's why Matt Rhule could then yesterday harken back to, oh, I've said positive things about Chubba all year. I believe in him. This is
And he
exactly
did.
why you do that, and he did believe in him. So yeah, it didn't lead to a win, but it got him some reps, and we'll see how he plays this week if things go in fact the way we think they're going to go, with Chubba Purdy getting the nod in Madison.
Yeah, when so much of this about being a Nebraska quarterback, or being a quarterback in general, and being on this team in general, is so much about confidence. And Rhule has talked so many times about trying to turn this team's mentality around, like build a winner and build confidence in them, and get the good players to realize that they're good players, and find out they're good players. I think that's really important. And speaking of one of those good players who now is realizing, I think, fully that he's a good player, is Ty Robinson. And that was the last thing I wanted to hit on here, is that I felt like that was the main takeaway from Tony White today. Tony White, by the way, nominated today for the Broyles Award for the nation's top assistant in college football. So I think that's extremely well deserved. I think we would all agree with that.
Yeah.
But his conversation about Ty Robinson was really intriguing and revealing. Both him and Rhule have now saying Ty Robinson's praises, and justifiably so.
Yeah, I think that, Tony White, defensive coordinator, today talked about Ty Robinson having another dominant game. He talked about specifically about a play where he was going one way and saw a screen out of the corner of his eye, cut on a dime, and just went and attacked it. He talked about splitting double teams like they weren't even there. And one of the thing that really stood out to me about what Tony said about Ty is that he talked about Ty's mentality. Like, I think this is something that, none of us have ever thought that Ty Robinson was not talented enough to play play at an all-conference level or be a future NFL player. The talent has always been there. It's about his mentality and whether or not he's attacking at all times, and he's playing with kind of that hair on fire. You saw it, was it last year? Was it maybe against Wisconsin, or 2 years ago against Wisconsin? Last year against Iowa. This year in a couple of different games, most notably the most recent one against Maryland. When he plays with that level of attitude, and I think it may be a confidence thing, as Tony White mentioned too, about him knowing he's the best guy out there. He's at a different level, and I think that hearing that, I think, really perked my ears up, and it'll make me watch even closer this week to see if he comes out there with that same mentality against Wisconsin, who's been struggling in all facets of the game, to see if he can go out there and dominate them on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I know you noticed this after the Maryland game and in the post game press conference. Like, Ty Robinson looked like a completely different Ty Robinson in the moments after that game. Like, I was uploading video of Rhule, and I'm like trying to get those things going, and then Ty Robinson walks in, takes the podium. And I'm like staring at my laptop, and I look up at him. And I did like an actual real life double take because I mean he has the turf beads on his face, the eye black smeared all over. He had an arm in a sling. He looked like a warrior who just went to battle, like a Braveheart type. A scene from Braveheart, which I know is one of your favorite movies. But he looked different, and he's playing different right now. Like you said, like ever since the Northwestern game, after that game is when Matt Rhule said he thought Ty had an absolutely dominant performance that moved him up a couple of rounds, like the type of performance that moves you up a couple of rounds in the NFL draft. And ever since then, he's been on a tear. And I thought the Maryland game, he was the defense player of the game in my eyes when I wrote up our Scarlet standouts, because he just he was a monster in that game with how he was affecting things. I mean, pretty much every big defensive play, Ty Robinson, number 9, is right there involved. So he's on an upward trajectory that's really exciting right now.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that this is something, I know I've said this on these videos before. Matt Rhule has said it on the sneak, and I feel like people continue to just ignore it. Ty Robinson is likely not going to be here next year. And part of this is that, like, he said it, but he said this like at least 6 weeks ago, like, and it was just a throwaway comment because he was talking about guys returning and saying that they wish that they could be here next year. And Ty was one of the first ones to come in. And people are like, first of all, I
didn't catch that.
Skipped. Oh yeah, people totally
I skipped over it too. I'm
and that's why I keep mentioning it, because I'm just like, people make these lists of like, oh, these guys could come back next year. I'm like, that Magic Johnson meme. I'm not going to be here. I feel like that's Ty, but for a good reason, is that he's playing so well, and I think deservedly so. I think he'll be off to the NFL after this year, and it'll be kind of the first. We'll have a lot of time to talk about this, but he would be like the first person for Terrence Knighton to be able to say, hey, we unlocked him and got him to a draft pick. And so yeah, I'm sorry that is going to upset people, but I do.
It shouldn't though. It should not upset people.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing in the long run, and I think he's definitely playing at that level. So I'm curious to see how he kind of, if this is the end, how he goes out with a bang and 2 just enormous games for kind of shaping the trajectory of the program and kind of getting a couple monkeys off their back with this loss streak to Wisconsin and all of that. Like, I just think that it would be a really big deal for him to have another dominating performance this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing if guys leaving to go be a early to mid round draft pick, which I think Ty Robinson right now would probably be a mid round draft pick. If he goes, I mean, and that's what I was going to say is after the Northwestern game, like after Rhule had mentioned about that being an absolutely dominant game, and Ty Robinson then met with the media too after that, the week after that game, and it was pretty cool to get his perspective and in the fact that he was refreshingly honest. Like, he straight up said, like, yeah, I'm gonna have a tough decision to make after this year that guys start thinking about later in the year of whether to go or whether to stay. And that was 4 weeks ago. And I think with each passing game, especially after the last one, he's making the decision a little easier on himself with the way he's been playing. But he's one of those guys. He's clearly an OOU Rhule guy, as we say. And he's been one of Rhule's closest confidants and most trusted players in that locker room. And wanted to finish up with just one of the quotes that Rhule had on Robinson yesterday, because he said on Sunday in the team facilities, he asked Ty, like, you going to have the team ready to go? And Ty said, Coach, one thing about Nebraskans, it doesn't matter if you're from somewhere else. When you're here, you just keep going back to work and you just keep fighting. That's the one thing you learn when you're here. The guys who can't figure that out, they have to go, and they've gone in the past, but will be ready to go. And whether that was a direct quote or not, doesn't matter. Rhule's awesome at speaking and making you adding some color to what his when he reflects back on conversations. But I thought that was a pretty important thing to remember going forward, is especially this defense's mentality. They're not just going to shrivel up or crumble up against at Wisconsin just because of the what's transpired over the last 2 games. But I think that's something we can bank on. But will we be able to get? Will Nebraska be able to get some quality quarterback play, some consistent quarterback play for once?
I thought you were gonna go with, can they get to double-digit points to be able to, help that defense out? If they get to 20, they win this game. Flat out. So we'll see. But I agree. I think the defense will be ready. And that to me was a really encouraging quote for the week, because remember, I said on Saturday right after the game, one of the things I was going to be paying close attention to this week was how these guys reacted to that game, because that was a gut punch, and it's really encouraging to hear that. It sounds like the fight is still within them.
So who's going to have the bold prediction about centered around Ty Robinson tomorrow? You or Steve or me? Like who's going to?
I think I'm going to let you have it. I feel like you're itching to go ahead and get that, so I'm going to let you have it.
I might, just so I can do a little humble brag, pat on the back for staff mail or a mailbag earlier in the year before the season started. Ty Robinson was my number 1 pick to have a breakout year because of the way I thought they would use him, and took a little while, took a few games, but he's on a roll right now. Mm-hmm. So he's going to try to keep it going against Wisconsin on Saturday night, 6:30 p.m. under the lights in Madison. Nebraska hasn't won there, and they haven't beat Wisconsin since 2012 before the 70-31 game in the Big Ten title game. We'll have coverage at InsideNebraska.com. Encourage you guys to go check out our site there, and encourage you guys to like this video, subscribe to the Inside Nebraska YouTube channel so you can get all those videos dropped directly into your feed. So for Greg Smith, I'm Zack Carpenter. We'll catch you guys again next time.